Today we'll be learning how to remove and install RAM in your computer system. Maybe you just need an upgrade or your RAM's gone bad, but either way, we'll get you taken care of. Before we move on to actually installing the RAM, we need to make sure all cables are removed and the power is turned off and the power unplugged. Now move your computer to a clean, safe, organized workspace where you'll feel comfortable working on it. And as for what you'll need, I'm going to be using compressed air, a magnetic tip screwdriver, a magnetic parts tray, and then of course the RAM that we're going to be installing. While we won't be installing any fans today, this is also all you would need to install fans in your case as well, in case one goes bad. Now, the first step to getting into the computer case is to simply remove the side panel, which is usually held on with 2 screws on the side. Mine are thumb screws, so they're easy to remove, but you may need a screwdriver for yours. Now removing the side panel is simple as just sliding it off and putting it to the side, and we're going to move on to the next step. Now you'll want to put the computer on its side, laying down so the motherboard's against the table. However, when you do this, you might notice your computer is really dusty, but a duster and a can of air can go a long way. Be gentle with your duster so you don't leave any feathers or dust on anything, but don't worry about the fans too much, as long as you're not rough. Clean out your dust filters, spray it off with compressed air, and you'll be good to go. While working in the computer, there is one precaution we need to take. All the little metal pins that you see everywhere conduct electricity, and if you're not careful, you could short out something on your motherboard. This is easily counteracted by touching something nearby that's metal so that you can ground yourself and remove any static electricity so it doesn't discharge into your system. Now that we've covered that and cleaned our system up a little bit, let's locate the RAM, which will be at the top of the case in the top right of your motherboard typically. And these 2 sticks here are the sticks of RAM in my system. Mine have heat sinks, but yours may just be bare circuit board. Holding the RAM onto the motherboard on each side are some clips, which to remove the RAM we need to release them. And easy enough, we just push them down like this, and now they've released their hold on the RAM, and you might have some on both sides like me, or just the one on one side. Now simply remove the sticks, and I suggest storing them in the packaging of your new RAM that you'll be installing. Moving on, before we install the new RAM, you'll want to make sure your clips are still pushed down so that you can put in the RAM without any hitches. You may notice a little slit on your RAM, and this is important because otherwise you will not be able to get the RAM in like this. As you can see, there's a slit, and if we turn it around the other way, it'll line up with the slit in the motherboard, and then you just gotta kind of wiggle it in there, maybe double check both sides, make sure they're both lined up, and then you should get a nice click on each clip when you push in the RAM. While you want to be gentle, make sure to give it a firm press to make sure it's properly seated and you'll get that click. Otherwise, it won't be in and your computer may not boot properly. If you did everything correctly, it's as easy as sliding the side panel back on, putting both thumb screws back in, putting it back at your workstation. Now, you need to plug in your power cable, flip the power switch back on, connect all your cables, and we're ready for a test boot. If your computer fails to start, just make sure everything's plugged in and that your monitor is also connected to the computer. But otherwise, if you get an error screen or it still won't boot, just try reseating the RAM, and that usually fixes most problems. Now that we're all done, you should be good to go with an upgraded computer and ready to have a great time. I'm Chris Harrison, and thanks for giving me your time.